Welcome back to the wrap up. Today is October 10th, 2024. Before we dive into today's topics, take a moment to click that repost button and follow us here on X if you haven't already. It helps a ton and ensures that you don't miss any of our upcoming content.
And remember, what you hear in this podcast is just our opinion and not professional financial advice. We're not experts. If you need advice, please ask someone who's a professional in that area. Listen at your own risk and always double check before making decisions based upon what we talk about. Sage, nice poster.
Thanks, man. Switching it up week over week here, move poster to poster. Just can't stick on the green wall. So trying different things.
No, I've got a pretty hot poster that I just didn't stretch out in time to get up behind me. I won't spoil it, but it was a gift from Sage himself. So maybe we'll get it up before next week.
Next week, hopefully. Shouldn't take too long. All right, ready to jump in?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. First topic for this week is the Pink Pop-Up Village that LUKSO is hosting in Bangkok, Thailand, the week of November 9th, 9th to the 16th this year. You can apply for a chance to have a comped accommodation in the heart of Bangkok for 7 nights in a private room while you enjoy the week of DevCon with the rest of the LUKSO community that is visiting that event. This is your chance to deep dive into the LUKSO ecosystem, connect with fellow LUKSO fan builders and contributors, and co-create the future of social culture and creativity on chain. For the week, here's what you can expect. It's going to be some exclusive meetups with LUKSO community members, a bunch of workshops, demos, and discussions led by core LUKSO team members, collaborative building sessions with fellow pioneers, wellness breakouts, involvement in LUKSO side events like the Mu Dang event, which got moved from its initial dates to this week so that the people participating in this village could make that trip. Super excited for that. And networking with the general Ethereum space during the most important event in Web3, says the LUKSO team. If these things interest you, make sure you apply. There's a form that's on the LUKSO Twitter. We'll also add the form into the comments here and the comments on YouTube. And try to secure your chance to have a fantastic week of events. Throw it over to you now, Eth, for your section for a little Q&A.
Yep, appreciate it. All right, so I've been pretty busy. I've had a lot going on personally, so I figured I'd take some time and just, I don't know, put my ear to the ground, see what the community had to say. So I asked the question: do you wish you knew more about anything particular really in the LUKSO ecosystem? What are they? And let me know in the comments, and we'll try to address them specifically in the wrap up in the coming weeks, or talk to the powers that be, whether it be a smart contract engineer or someone inside of LUKSO on the business development team, if we can't get answers that we can't pass along to some of these questions. But before we get there, really, I wanted to editorialize for a minute and just say, in the LUKSO community, 2 forms of capital really drive different motivations. We've got financial capital and we've got this idea of social capital. While both are important, they operate in fundamentally different ways and often lead people down distinct paths. Financial capital is pretty straightforward. It's wealth, profit, assets. It's the currency of investors and traders, those high risk, high reward seekers always chasing the next big payoff. Financial capital can buy influence in certain spaces, but it rarely guarantees respect or a lasting legacy. In fact, in many communities, financial gain without meaningful contribution can actually erode your status. And honestly, that's something I think I resonate with, right? Like that's something everybody, I don't know, in this moment, that seems very true. Social capital, on the other hand, is about influence, reputation, relationships within a community. It's built by showing up, contributing, and earning trust. Unlike financial capital, social capital cannot be bought. It must be cultivated over time through consistent effort and genuine engagement. It's the currency of creators, builders, and visionaries who seek more than just short-term profit. They aim to shape a culture or a movement. And understanding this distinction is key to seeing how the LUKSO community splits into distinct camps, each driven by a different kind of capital. The first group we have is kind of the when token price group. These are the financial capital seekers. They're the investors, speculators, the shit coiners, chasing high risk, high reward gains. At this point, many of them have likely exited, as reflected by the falling token price. Their motivation is wealth, but they often overlook the financial capital alone doesn't secure a lasting place in the community. In Web3, Financial capital can even undermine one's social status. Wealth can buy assets, but it can't buy respect or influence without meaningful contribution. That's something this group seems to miss, and it's why this group doesn't stick around for very long and will be replaced by a new group of when token price people when the token price starts to go up. We also have the Web3 crowd. They're also known as the creator economy camp. These people are primarily focused on social capital. Many entered during the last NFT cycle when much of the so called collectible art was little more than speculative assets and flashy wrappers. While that's a harsh take, it's true. And most of these NFTs were just the liquid tokens dressed up as art. This group here, that Web3 crowd, reveals a critical misstep in Web3 thinking. In fact, at this point, when I say Web3, it actually hurts a little bit coming out of my mouth. I was saying to Rob earlier, makes me feel a little nauseous. However, the assumption that financial incentives could replace social incentives is the misstep. True social capital, the force that drives communities and movements, has always trumped financial gain for most people. Web 2 made this really clear, and that's at the heart of this idea of the creator economy. As users consistently prioritize social status and recognition over direct monetary rewards. Web3, especially the NFT crowd, missed that lesson. Though it did show how communities can quickly form around financial capital, unfortunately, most NFT communities were only as strong as their token prices, and many have disappeared at this moment. Our last group, the grinders, okay, this group is the group I respect the most. They focus on building real social capital by showing up, contributing, and earning recognition within the community. These individuals understand that influence and respect aren't things you can buy. They're gained through consistent effort and genuine contributions. Grinders are shaping LUKSO's future. They're driven by social incentives like recognition, respect, and influence. These are far more enduring than the allure of quick financial gain. I just listed three distinct groups. And although they are distinct in grouping, people can fall in this beautiful kind of overlapping area between the distinct groups. It's think of it more like a Venn diagram. I know I'm using distinct and saying overlapping, and if that's crushing your brain at the moment, I'm sorry, but people are generally not just black and or white. There's a lot of shades of gray in between. So you might have resonated with one and or all of the groups that I've mentioned, and that's okay. In fact, it probably takes a little bit of each to truly describe any one of us. But this section I'm about to give you, the tweets, the question I asked with this tweet here, I asked, like, really, what are these groups thinking? And when I posed this question on Twitter, I received some responses, but the level of engagement on this tweet really speaks volumes about some of the community that's still around here in LUKSO. Had I tweeted something like Lux to the moon, I probably would have gotten 10 times the engagement. I would have had over 20,000 views on this tweet. It's like standing on the shore. Honestly, this is what it feels like. It's like standing on the shore of a shipwreck island where people are cheering for the idea of building a raft, but no one's doing anything to help the few people that are lashing the trees, the fallen trees together. As someone who's actually trying to build the raft myself, it's actually really frustrating. The token price crowd is really just chasing financial capital, but the real value in this space lies in the social capital, and that's earned by putting the work in to build something meaningful. And on the shipwrecked island, that means building the raft to the promised land. And that, like I've said before, is going to take a lot of people, way more than just me. So if you're a grinder out there, and there are many, thank you so much for the work you're putting in. And if you're one of those people cheering on the shore, for the raft builders, um, I get it. If that's all you can do, thank you for cheering. But so many of you have so much more to add, so much more to offer. Get involved, please. I mentioned it last week through bridge building. This week, I'm using this idea of raft building. Doesn't matter. Just get involved. Be a grinder, right? Grinders make the world go around. All right, getting on to some of the tweets here. Again, this is an ear to the ground piece. So, what are the people asking for? Well, we've got Sleepy Sign. Sleepy Sign is putting together the Sleepy Project. And again, Sleepy is a grinder. Sleepy's out there every single day trying to build a use case that is going to showcase some of LUKSO's really interesting technology. And what Sleepy believes is people need to learn the importance of the key manager and how this could overall impact DApps and gaming systems, because Sleepy sees the future, but is saying the average person is not seeing really the power of the key manager yet. Now, I'm not going to explain the key manager here, but this is a great topic that I think we need to explore more. Sleepy, thank you for bringing this up. Next tweet we have is from TMAS Report IRL NPC slaves for int and trolls, please. That is a mouthful of a name. But Tommy, I love this one. You're talking about inheritance. What if someone were to pass? What if you were to pass and you had all of your money in your or in all of your assets, the things you care about in your universal profile? How can you make sure that your loved ones get access to it? Well, Tommy says inherit access rights for the people you want according to certain parameters and conditions when you die. When you die, for example, if you don't sign a transaction for X number of months, then the smart contract is executed and the right of the people we designed to get access to the universal profile get a notification, and maybe those all that wealth, all that social capital and financial capital gets transferred to your beneficiary. That is something that can absolutely be built. It will require a little bit of thought, but I love that this is where your head's at, and I think this is something that we can bring up to brains much more powerful than me to come up with some good ideas around. So I appreciate that one. Next tweet we have is from ECJ. Now we know Jay is a grinder. Jay's out there building every day with Ohana DAO. So Jay saying behind the scenes strategy to position as the blockchain for social. That's what Jay is looking for. What is actually happening, right? It's not enough to say, hey, we're building something social. That feels like the politician that's standing behind a podium promising things that are never going to come. We want to know, what is the policy? What's actually happening? How is the strategy coming together that we can engage with? How can the grinders support you? I don't feel like that's too much to ask. Jay, love that question. I want to see more strategy too. Maybe we can dig that out for you. We've got Alt Anonymous saying what the future of interoperability with other chains might look like. Well, as of this morning, Uniswap just announced Unichain, right? And their big value proposition is that they are going to try to really work on making these different L2 chains and Ethereum interoperable. How does that impact how does that impact the LUKSO network and then its real number one value proposition, which is universal profiles? How can we use universal profiles as the universal profile across all chains? Isn't that something that we should be working towards? Great question, Alts. That's something that I think we should talk about more. It's way more interesting than when token price go up. Although I will not for 1 second discount for anyone who just, again, had that little taste in the back of their throat. When I said, let's not talk about token price, we know token price is important and it's going to require token price going up to enable some of the building that needs to happen. So I want to acknowledge that as well. But Alt's great question. That's something we should also look at. Maybe try to grab some interviews from people in the know. Okay, we got one from LUKSO G here. Says, I would like to know who the F is selling. Wouldn't we all like to know at this point? I mean, there were so many places that you could have sold your tokens. Now, some people are definitely selling because they are financing their projects. If they're, let's say, artists, they're creators that have sold their goods, sold you an NFT that you really prize, maybe they're paying their bills, right? Maybe they're taking that out to better their own lives. Like, there are plenty of reasons to sell the token. I think the question that people are struggling with is the sell pressure that seems to come from, it's consistent sell pressure that is coming over and over and over again. It's almost like an angry sell pressure. Where's that coming from? I wish we could identify. I know there's some sleuths out there. Go ahead, please try to find it. Pharaoh Resident says, maybe slightly off topic, but I think having things explained in an ELI5 style so normies can understand without any blockchain jargon. We're trying to abstract that away after all and explained in real world scenario how it's useful now and will be in the future with the right DApps. Awesome, Pharaoh Revenant. Pharaoh, I'm actually really supportive of this. I am, as a former instructor of physics, I taught conceptual physics to ninth graders for years. That was physics without math. You can teach something without getting into the weeds. But at the same time, you have to make it meaningful and you have to make it resonate with the person who is trying to understand the concept. Just to go wave our arms and give these platitudes like we're changing the world or isn't this grand, the creator economy, is not helping anyone understand what is actually happening. We need more ELI 5. We need that done really in cooperation between some of the people who are more technically minded and some of the people who are better communicators. If we're falling short in our communication, I won't point any fingers, but maybe that's a question we should investigate. Beef says, lay out what the Ethereum verse with the Hashi Alliance and Gnosis chain will be like with Luxo. Paint the picture from a user perspective. Beef, awesome. Many people are wondering, how is the bridge, quote unquote, the ZK bridge, going to operate? Lay that out in layman's terms. That goes back to Pharaoh's point in the ELI5. I don't think that's difficult to spell out, although the people who are trying to spell it out are probably not the most qualified to do so. So that's going to have to be in partnership with, again, technically minded people with better communicators. Not difficult to do. Would love to investigate it further. And the last one I have for you is this one here. We have account abstraction usually costs more gas amount than EOA. This could lead to chain congestion and higher gas prices in the future. And also, this person is concerned about the TPS of Luxo. Overall, would like to understand scalability concerns and insight into solutions. This is a very large topic here. There's a lot to discuss. I actually had the conversation briefly with Jean Cavaliere in a telegram the other day about the fact that a table doesn't exist, just a simple table where we can compare what does it cost to transfer an LSP7 versus a similar ERC20 token on the Ethereum L1. If we had those comparison gas costs that were laid out, might be something that the average person could start to investigate and wrap their head around, maybe even talk about in terms that are more concrete than saying much more or usually more, right? Those are not quantifiable terms, and we need to speak in quantifiable terms. It's very important that we have these quantifiable terms. Unfortunately, there's only so many people that can do this, right? So sorry, let me back that up. Unfortunately, there's only so many hours in the day. Like I said, if you're on the beach and you're cheering the raft builders, you can get involved by doing something for the raft. This would be an easy one. Go to the Ethereum L1, try to like make a test transaction, log the gas. Go to the Luxo L1, make a transaction, log the gas, compare them, put them in a spreadsheet. We can then do a pull request in the documentation on the Luxo docs, like John's asking for, and we can then start to put that into the documentation so it's public and everyone can see it. This is not a heavy list. This is not even something that requires a great amount of technical skill. It just requires people to get off the beach and start lashing the boards together on the raft. All right. So I think I probably said enough here. In recap, what I really am just kind of sick of, in general, this is me, is this idea that we're somehow paralyzed and waiting. We're not. We're not waiting for anything. The only thing we're waiting for is more people to get involved. And for anybody who's here, be a grinder. Like I said, if you're falling into one of those three distinct camps and you're all of one, but not if you're all in the when token price or you're all in the creator economy and you're not a grinder, then find a little grind, because that's what it's going to take to go forward. No one's coming to build the raft for us or build the bridge like we mentioned last week. So on that note, I'm going to throw this baby back over to Sage, and we'll take it from there. Thanks for your time.
Nice. Yeah, I love that section. I think Q&As would be something that we would love to do more. So keep the questions coming, especially to the Keys Twitter, so we can keep track of them. Maybe we'll start a hashtag. I think he didn't necessarily go into any of the details for actually answering many of those questions, which we could work to do moving forward. Or again, it's good to just surface this information, right? People might not see those comments on Twitter, but if we can put them through this show and get maybe 1,000 views on them, then better chances that they get answered, right?
Yeah. The intent wasn't to answer the questions when I put the tweet out. The intent was to raise the questions, right? Because a good answer requires more than a 30-second snippet on a podcast, right? A good answer requires some thought, right? To really address it, to do honor to the question, to do the question right? That's what I'll say.
Give it justice. Absolutely. Great. So we'll head on to our next section here, which is Ted from Farcaster, Ted Not Lasso, talking about infighting in crypto. Now, I wanted to take some time to touch on this post from Ted about the infighting and tribalism that we often see on crypto Twitter. Now, this is nothing new for those of you who have been around crypto Twitter for a long time. You're obviously very used to these things, and they likely won't go away. Tribalism and loyalty to groups is human tendency, but can also be more prominent when competition gets really tight. This caused Ted, in this long post that she put out, to do some thinking. Competition gets more intense when resources are limited. In crypto, we can say that these resources are primarily users and their funds. According to A16Z's crypto state of crypto index, which is a pretty good resource of information there, since April, there has been 3.25x increase in the number of unique users on blockchains. That's 37 million to 125 million. But this information may not be entirely accurate, or at least can be seen through. Ted asked in the thread to get some clarification on what derived that chart, or where they got those numbers from, and she didn't get a great answer on it. But Ted then dives into some good factual information here, or some numbers-driven information. Transactions across blockchains dropped from 2.67 billion to 2.1 billion. The average transaction per unique user dropped nearly 75%. DEX volume dropped nearly 30%. Stablecoin volume dropped almost 25%, although it had a record month in August. NFT buyers, which she considered bought one NFT per month, dropped 25%, regardless of the drop in mint fee price that we've seen. And number of active developers is back to December 2020 levels, and has been downward trend since January 2022. Now, these, again, she started this post with the fact that she didn't want to be doom and gloom, and that's not the point of this post here. But the point of the post, at least this section of it, is to emphasize that we're supposed to believe 800K plus new daily active users on Solana are actual individual humans. If that was true, most of those numbers or information that she provided likely wouldn't be the same, because those things don't necessarily coincide. But we would also be seeing massive network effect and skyrocketing market cap at the minimum. But that is not the case. The actual case is likely upwards of 90% of these new addresses are not unique users, but a couple users spinning up thousands and thousands of wallets. And this is not a novel concept. So Ted continues to point on the fact that we aren't necessarily in a bear market or crypto winter, definitely not a bull market. So what are we in? She calls it a stagnant state, right? It's just stagnation. We're not growing. Those statistics may state that we're dying to an extent, right? We have those significant declines. But realistically, where we're at is everyone in the industry is currently competing for the same users and the same tokens over the same distribution channels, right? It's just people bouncing around from project to project, taking their funds from one area to the next, and listening through these same distribution channels, i.e. crypto, Twitter, and LinkedIn and YouTube, and all the places you get your information, as all of these projects are just competing against each other, right? Of course we're fighting, right? Resources are scarce and the threat perception is high. Another potential reason for the fighting is the fact that this industry is pretty much only financial, or at least that's all we've gotten. I don't want to say right, but that's all we've made significant progress on so far, as ETH was alluding to. People say we're living in an online casino, and if there's anything that'll pin two people against each other, it's money. One way forward is creative incentives for participation other than money that reaches into segments of users who haven't ventured into this space before, ideally through social capital, the topic of this show here. Now, this is a perfect segue into David Phelps' social app thesis. The basic premise here is that Web2 apps did a great job of enabling the building of a social network, yet failed when it comes to the financial side. Now, Web3 is hit on the financial side, especially on the individual aspect, making it so you can transact peer-to-peer and people can custody their own funds, yet it has struggled to make the social side as viable as Web2. Now, let's dive in as we trend to this fourth topic of the show. Ultimately, people look for three ways of gaining value. They want to make money, they want to create status, and they want to make friends. When it comes to apps, Social incentives trump financial incentives for most people. The average person is not necessarily trying to spend all of their time just making money and playing in the casino, but the average person does love to spend time talking to their friends online and scrolling and creating potential status and potential new friends for themselves all over the globe. David makes the claim that Web 2 demonstrated this exact claim, that people prioritize social status over financial gain. They're willing to use apps like Facebook and Instagram and forfeit their data to companies so they can monetize in exchange for the accrual of personal social status. Now, Web3 apps have failed so far by assuming financial incentives could replace social incentives, or at least be sufficient enough as a standalone. This is far from the truth, as we're starting to see. You see in apps like friend.tech, right, which was a claimed social app or a friend-making app, right, that was just a financial game, right? Those are just financial games that people went and played in the shape of making financial status. And that's another big thing that David brings up in this article, is that you cannot buy social status, right? No matter how much money you have, you're not going to be able to buy the friends. You're not going to be able to buy the social status that people crave and want to create and have created in these Web 2 environments. And that is just, it's been a misstep so far. So financial incentives, although worked for early blockchain users with DeFi, this is the bulk of the people that are in this industry as of right now, but not for its social apps. Financial rewards attract users only temporarily and don't build loyalty. You see it on this meme here, right? How often have you had people hanging around a project for an extended period of time trying to farm an airdrop, and as soon as that airdrop comes, that airdrop is then dumped, and those users then head over to the next one that is promising an airdrop, right? They're playing financial games. They are not craving the social status, and they're not playing these social games that we would like, right? But then you have the aspect of these social games can potentially create the loyalty that ultimately these apps and communities need. But Web 2 social apps enable users to build social status with loyalty attached, but minimal ability for users to earn financial value, right? This is where the blockchain comes in. Blockchain then provides a unique opportunity for social apps to enable direct user-to-user monetization, which we've done great already. And Web 2 apps monetize social behavior for corporations, but blockchain allows users to monetize that for themselves, right? So now through the blockchain, you have the ability for these users to build these social connections while being able to have this user-to-user direct monetization circumventing said corporations, which again, has never been seen before at the scale that is possible here. Now, Ted and David's posts relate very heavily to each other. The crypto infighting will likely never stop, but it is currently being exacerbated by a lack of new entrants and fleeing money. This is greatly due to the fact that crypto has only done well in the financial layer. What we need are apps building on for social capital, apps that will bring the social networking capabilities of Web 2 into the financialized world of Web 3 while giving the individual all the power to accrue social status through a mashup of user empowerment. This is when we will start to see the next billion users, and there is no better place to make these apps than on LUKSO. That was a bit of a rant, and it related a lot to ETH's section earlier, so we're really hammering this social capital narrative down. Hoping you guys are picking it up. For the last section of the show, we're going to hear from our 8-armed friend here, and he's going to talk a bit about the grid and some deplatforming.
So we don't have many users in crypto right now. It's been the same small group doing the same simple monetary tasks since forever. But if we could find a way to integrate the biggest elements of Web 2, which is that social element, right? Like, then we can incentivize the average person to finally start using this technology. And of course, with LUKSO, it can all happen behind the scenes with things like LSP standards, universal profiles, and a relayer. It could all be totally invisible on the back end. With the grid, you get to make the rules. All right. So it's going to finally allow DApp developers to build mini apps, things that could take the form of like widgets, right? Make UX fun again. That's one thing that we've seen in the Web3 space up to this point, there's been zero focus on the UX or UI. It's just been abysmal, right? Because the standards didn't allow it, but they finally do now, right? So no more super complicated onboarding processes or landing pages or just an insane amount of accounts and passwords to have to deal with. No, one profile that is literally universal. A user could simply add a dApp they like to their profile and organize them, order them however they like, curating a custom experience, reminiscent of the old MySpace days, right? But something that actually merges Web 2 and Web 3 activity in the same place. And any visitor to this page could be connected with only the click of a button, right? So your grid, which would sit below your universal profile, which includes your on-chain bio and links, it could consist of things like, say, your website, your Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, or Facebook timelines, an NFT drop that you just launched, a friends list, maybe a music player, shout out Streamgate, maybe they find some unique way to turbocharge those on-chain interactions and rewards, through one of these widgets. You can let your mind run wild, fam. Like the possibilities are going to be pretty damn exciting to explore. And remember, it's totally decentralized. So this account is all yours. You get to own it. No bowing to centralized entities on this one. So instead of, say, a platform harvesting your activity and exploiting your information while blasting you with ads that you don't get revenue from, like imagine you flip the script on its head, right? Imagine hosting an ad-based dApp on your page where you could sell space to a brand, artist, or project that you want to support. Any revenue from that, would go right to your universal profile, no middleman. Unless, of course, like the dApp itself might take a small percentage, which is totally fine, but get to really change. We're removing the middleman for a lot of things. And this is what Web3 is all about, right? Is that connectivity. So universal profiles and the grid are going to open up a whole new world. So we're just scratching the surface here. I am super excited for the grid if you couldn't tell. And I hope you guys are too.
I am indeed. Alts. Eth, are you excited about it?
Yeah, I'm interested to see kind of the entire product rollout here. We've heard about it. The proof will be in the proverbial pudding. Will people use it? Will people find it interesting? Will people find the experience transformative? I mean, we've been waiting a long time for the promise of this technology. And when I say technology, I mean universal profiles and social experience to kind of materialize. So, like I said, proof will be in the using, and that's what people are begging for. We want to be able to show people, our friends, our family, what this is all about. Up until now, it's been a lot of getting in replies and saying LUKSO is the best. Well, if the token price measures the best, then we're not the best. We're the opposite of the best, right? So it's time to actually launch product, and then maybe community marketing will help. But we can't rely on anyone else. That's just not something that we can do anymore. We have to use the product, embrace the product, make the most of the product. And I will say, in the grid scenario, Alts had this. Well, he basically said you can have a merging of Web 2 and Web 3, which is something that Fabian has talked about. And on our grids, yeah, you can curate your existing Web 2. I'm going to be very interested to see how active builders then integrate the quote unquote Web 3 experience inside of it. If you get rid of the need to have a landing page, you get rid of the need to drive traffic to your site individually. How does that unlock the creativity of people with ideas and developers who can build them to put these experiences in an iframe, so I no longer have to worry about the landing page? Now I'm solely worried about what is the product and or service that I'm offering. And Fabian has said that this ability to clone widgets is something that will happen. So how is the virality of those widgets going to take hold of this kind of universal grid experience? All of these are questions that are left unanswered. These are things that are in my mind that I think about. I probably perseverate on them. I worry about them way too much. The average person is just like, oh, damn, we went up 2% or we're down 10. For me, it's like, what the hell is this going to look like? How can we make it more viral? I think if we had more people perseverating on the hows and not the whens, more would get done around here.
Yeah, I mean, you said a lot there. One of my favorite parts is that copying of the widgets aspect. I think like widgets are a really interesting building point, like Telegram mini apps and mini games for Fortnite and Roblox, and like all these aspects of like being able to plug in the creator and have them be able to build mini things and then share them and reap the benefit. Those are very Web 2 kind of narratives that we haven't really seen yet. But let's leave all that for another episode. We'll close this one up here. Thanks everyone for listening. If you're looking for more Keys content, check out our Sunday newsletters where we cover all of the need to know info from the past week in LUKSO. Live on our Common Ground, streaming on X. We have Lightning Talks on Tuesdays, a collection of 5-minute presentations from LUKSO community members. On our site, you can look to catch blog posts from myself, and every Monday, look out for Medium Rare with Beef Banks on our X. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you want to see more content like this, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Thanks again for the support.